Hi everyone, my name is Anika Verma and I'm the Chief Communications Officer at the Steamboat. For those of you who don't know, we interview various students who have showcased an interest or leadership in STEAM. And we are here to announce our next interview student, Yannie. So before we get started, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. I'm Yannie. I'm a junior currently studying at San Marino High School.
All right, nice to meet you. So can you tell us a little bit about the organization that you're the CEO of called Global Youth Security?
Yes, of course. So Global Youth Security is an initiative that I started a while ago, and we cover five main subjects or five main kind of topics. Primarily, we try to work on things like advocacy and legislation, depending on what we feel is best for that time.
All right. So you mentioned five branches, so can you please tell us what the five branches are and go in a little bit depth about them?
Yeah, so first we have climate change, which is, I think, pretty straightforward. Mainly for this branch, we work on a lot of advocacy, especially because we believe that climate change does have a lot of root issues. So we do try to educate the public in regards to that. Our next one is food insecurity, which is a little bit more of a niche. However, poverty is a really great issue, especially in the areas that we live in, which are in our case, America, but we do have some members in India who are also faced with a lot of poverty. So food insecurity to us is very valuable. And that's our second topic. Our third would be cybersecurity. We mainly included this because going into the digital age, we believe that cybersecurity, especially for those who are more vulnerable, do need to be educated in some sort of aspect. So we included cybersecurity. And then we also have mental health. Mental health, especially with students who are under, school pressure and all that, is really important. So we believe that mental health is definitely something that needs to be addressed and talked about. And finally, we our last one would be poverty, in which we kind of encompass, food insecurity as one thing, but also other aspects, especially in places where we have a lot of refugees. We believe that those people do need support, and hence we help tackle those issues as well.
All right, those are a broad range of things that you address, and I think it's all really amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about initiatives or things that your organization has done to address these issues specifically?
Yeah, of course. So our organization, I think because it covers so many different topics, we are given a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. So one thing that we've done is hold a lot of different campaigns. Recently for Earth Day, we just had one in regards to climate change, and so that is definitely something that we look forward to. Our branches definitely try our best to match up with a lot of the different days. October and November are especially busy for us because we do have a lot of days such as No Hunger Day, as well as Cybersecurity Awareness Day in those months. So that's definitely when we're more busy. But we typically for those times we do have some more campaigns and advocacy work. But we also contact different legislators to discuss legislation. Recently, we reached out to some legislator from Wisconsin, I believe, and we discussed a farm bill that was proposed by the legislator there.
All right, that sounds all very exciting. So, can you tell me, let's like backtrack a little bit. So, how did you end up starting this organization?
Yeah, so I think I started this back a while ago. It was in the planning stages for a while because I the thing is I did a lot of work regarding a lot of different topics prior, but it was really difficult to have an organization that covered a broad amount of topics. So it was difficult to kind of experience and work for different kinds of topics, and I kind of wanted to change that. So when I was, I think, in 8th grade, I believe middle school, yeah. 8th grade, I was thinking about ways I could do so, and I think one thing that really impacted me was I had a lot of different friends with a lot of different interests, and we kind of came together to come up with, global youth security, and that's kind of how it started.
That
Yeah.
sounds very exciting, and I think I can definitely agree. There's so many different organizations that focus on very niche areas, and it's great to have a broader like organization. So, can you tell me about any challenges or difficulties you faced in starting up, or even throughout the journey of your organization.
Certainly. So one thing that I think is a challenge for everyone is communication, right? So I think communication, people say it's really important, and it truly is, but saying that isn't it is important is not reciprocal to the fact that it is hard, right? So I think communication, because it is so important, it's difficult, especially um when dealing with, the seasons where, for example, at this time, I'm not sure when this will be published, but as of this time, the APs are coming up, and that makes it a little difficult and slows down progress. But sometimes when for example, legislators, they might not understand that it is AP season and stuff. So it makes it difficult because they expect certain things to be done, but we, because of our time constraints, aren't able to do so. But Also, international barriers can be difficult. I've had some members come up and told me that they couldn't communicate with the rest of their group through a certain medium. For example, some of them don't have reliable internet, and sometimes meetings are difficult for them. And so that is also really difficult to communicate and, let them know what's going on at times. So I think communication is definitely a challenge that has come up time and time again.
I can definitely agree with that. Heading the communication department here is definitely like something I look over and make sure we try to do our best. And we also have people in various different time zones and trying to get everybody together in a meeting that works with people who live in the 12-hour difference from where we are is quite extremely challenging. So I can definitely agree with that. What would you say is like your most favorite part of running an organization? Like what keeps you going every day? What keeps you like that's the happiness that you get out of it.
I think primarily it's the essence of being able to work with a group of motivated individuals. Um, I think beyond the things that we're able to do, beyond talking to legislators, holding campaigns, or doing fundraisers, it's really the process of doing that I think makes it really valuable. I think alone you can also do a lot on your own. Like you can reach out to legislators on your own, you can hold your own fundraisers, and you can start your own campaign. But doing it with somebody else and a group of other individuals make it very special. And I think that's the beauty of having an organization or working in an organization.
Yes, I can definitely agree. Like having a team, being able to bounce off ideas and expand on things is definitely like the amazing moments that you have. And you mentioned about doing fundraisers and things like that. And from personal experiences and experiences of others, most people have a lot of challenges hosting fundraisers just because of how do they host it. So could you provide some insight on with your experience on how you hold fundraisers and what you do to make them successful?
Yeah, of course. So I think first it's deciding uh kind of the logistics of it, right? So what that means is, why are you having a fundraiser? Because I think that's really important. If people don't know why you're like holding a fundraiser, they're less likely to share or like to donate money. So definitely knowing why you're holding a fundraiser, I think is really important. And then I think another thing that is really important is determining how you're going to do it broadly, right? So I think a lot of times fundraisers aren't successful because we overthink them, or different people overthink them. They think every single like detail needs to be figured out. Like, we need to have, create X amount of money. And although it's important to have that goal kind of in mind, it shouldn't be, at the front of holding a fundraiser, right? But I think broadly, like knowing, okay, we're going to do this in person, we're going to do this online is really important, and take it step by step, right? A successful fundraiser isn't something that is going to be like a one day kind of thing, right? It's going to take a while, and I think you just kind of have to understand that, this is the notions of doing it. And finally, practice, not practice, but like experience. Um, the first one is always hard, difficult, kind of worrisome, but as you do more, it becomes more and more easy in a way because you understand, okay, this is kind of the way it works. This is, the people that work best with fundraisers, et cetera, et cetera.
I can definitely agree with that. Like at my high school, I have experience with fundraising too, and the first two fundraisers we did, not so good. But now I know what to do better and what to fix, and I can definitely see like a better future ahead. So I have another question about, you mentioning that you worked with legislators and things like that. So can you tell me about like a major achievement that your organization had? So whether that was like some sort of bill getting passed or any kind of change that you were able to lead.
Yeah, of course. So currently, actually, um, legislative work for us has been new because we like last year and kind of the years before that, we were working a lot about campaigns and fundraising and stuff. So for legislation, because like the legislative year has just started, especially where I'm from in California. The bills being introduced only ended in February. We were so we're unable. I don't think we haven't passed any laws yet, but currently we have helped a lot of different legislators with getting like bills endorsed. So for example, I'm forgetting the exact letters. Like I think it's AB 1 8 something, I forgot. So, but for one of those, we were able to meet with their legislative team, and we it gave them some insight as to what we believed the bill would how they would impact youth specifically, especially because we are mainly youth based. We do have some adults, but we are mainly youth based. So I think being able to support these legislators in the sense that we're able to give them insight as to how youth may react to such bill, how it might impact youth, has been something that we have been able to achieve in the couple of months we've started working in legislative work. Hopefully in the future though, we'll actually have something concrete and not just consulting and stuff.
I think that's still very impressive as high school students. Being able to give suggestions to adults is a really big deal because most of the time it's the other way around. So I think that's just really exciting that your input is valued and you're able to, bring something to the table. So now moving a little bit again back into how you built the organization. So many people when they start their own organizations will pick a topic that they're really passionate about, but if they find a difficult time building a strong team, getting enough people, getting interest. So how was your journey? How did you, gain publicity and have more members be a part of your team?
Um, I think it's a little interesting because I had a team before I had an organization. So I think oftentimes nowadays, people want to have an idea that they want to do and then build a team off of that. But I think so, if, my journey was a little bit flipped, that I had a team, we were all already interested in doing something, and then we built an organization off of that. However, I have worked in organization or have worked with people who didn't know how to start. And I think one way to gain publicity is a social media. I think nowadays, we're doing this through an online media, and Instagram's a big thing, TikTok's a big thing, Facebook is not so much a big thing, Twitter is not so much a big thing, but Google is still certainly a big thing. I think those are definitely ways to get publicity, and I know some people are really shy when asking friends or asking, community members or teachers. Um, Especially because, you think it's awkward. So to those people, I think, that's okay. You don't have to ask. You don't have to build your team off your community. But definitely branch out. There's many different platforms out there. For example, I remember, we used a platform called RoundPeer at one point to do stuff. So that's definitely one thing. But social media, I think, is definitely a great way to publicize.
All right, thank you for those amazing tips. So now we'll move a little bit away from the global youth security. And you mentioned that you are part of the National Security Language Initiative for Youth for Korean scholars. So can you tell us a little bit about what this exactly is?
Yeah, of course. So Nestle Y is a program hosted or sponsored by the US Department of State. And what they do is they allow youth, I think from like 6th to 12th grade, I think middle schoolers are included as well, to help bridge cultural gaps between different cultures. So, um, that would look like, for example, learning the different kinds of food a culture eats or the different languages that they speak, or understanding their cultural norms. And yeah, and I think that's really the essence of what it is.
All right, so can you tell me a little bit about, how you got into this program and what you've done as part of it?
Yeah, of course. So, how I got into this program, well, I saw it um through a Google search. And I was interested and then I applied and then that's about it. I'm not I'm not sure as to specifically how I got in. That I wasn't the one who decided that,
Yeah.
but but what I was able to do through the program. So I was actually able to learn. Okay, so I was part of the Korean program, and I was able to learn Korean. And then they sent us a lot of materials like chopsticks, and we learned a lot of their social norms. Speaking of which, I do have some of the materials here. Like for example, they sent us the like. Oh, this is a notebook for my Korean vocabulary. But, like, they sent us these, like like, textbooks and workbooks that we did, and I was able to meet with a lot of other, students from across the US who were also interested in, bridging cultural gaps.
All right, that sounds very exciting. So I have a little quick question to clarify. So do you represent your culture at the table or do you learn about other cultures?
Well, we're considered cultural ambassadors, right? So we don't necessarily meet with other Koreans. However, we have different Korean citizens come over to talk to us about different things. For example, we did have at one point a Korean high school teacher who came over and talked to us about how high school in Korea looks like. And in the summer, actually, they're sending us over to Korea for 7 weeks to learn more about, what they do and um, kind of experience, Korean culture in Korea. And so I think that's mainly what the program's about.
All right, that sounds very exciting. So next thing is that you mentioned you're the board of directors and Southern California regional president for a nonprofit called IYTC. So can you tell us a little bit about what this organization is and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So IYTC is something I joined when I was a sophomore, and it is a organization that deals with tobacco. So what this looks like is we do educational events, we work on legislative work, and we also have international events with other organizations. Yeah, and what I do, so I mainly operate within Southern California. So what this looks like is holding fundraisers as well and having educational events in which we speak to, younger elementary school kids about the harms of tobacco and what they can do to combat such issue.
I think you're really part of a lot of amazing organizations, and they all have such meaningful things that they are able to achieve. So, I also mentioned in your other activities, you've noted that you're part of United Nations MGCY Youth Constitute. So, can you tell us what this exactly is and what you do as part of that?
Yeah, so for this, what you really do, or what we really do is we meet. Like, I don't know, like, the timing like, changes depending on the season, but we talk a lot about the different things that go into, the UN SDGs. So, for example, in the next year, we have the Summit of the Future, which is a UN summit, relating to a few SDGs and the progress of the UN on those SDGs. The UNMGCY currently is writing a document called the Zero Pact of the Future, which is a document that is going to be read at the Summit of the Future to different world leaders. And so, what I was able to do with this is that, I was able to read over these documents, add things, and revise things, and make edits, as well as discuss with, peers um, from all over the world. Like, I don't know at this point, but I think the group chat with or the not the group chat, like the meetings have had like at least 1,000 people. Um collectively, like throughout all the meetings. So I've been able to listen to a lot of different perspectives during these meetings and such.
Okay, I have a lot of clarifying questions. Maybe it's just I don't know about this. So, what is SDG? And can you also tell us what MGCY is? And can you clarify just a little bit more exactly what this does? So, because I didn't understand those two acronyms, so I wasn't really able to catch everything.
Yeah, of course. So, um, MGCY stands for Major Group for Children and Youth, which is the UN's group that for, youth. Um, Previously, a few years ago, the UN began understanding that, youth have a lot of prominent uh perspectives in regards to issues that are, currently really huge or have a huge impact in the world. So they created this kind of youth group for youth in order to advocate to the UN. And so that's what MGCY is, right? SCG stands for Sustainable Development Goals, which are some goals that the UN set for itself in order to, combat real life issues. For example, a SDG would be things like no poverty or no hunger, and these are different types of issues the UN is trying to solve. And it's categorized into 16 different SDGs. I don't have all 16 in my head right now, but they're just basically a lot of different sectors that the UN is trying to deal with. And then was there one more? I think there was one more.
No, I think that was basically it. Okay, now I kind of understand it better. So it's more like, how high schoolers compete at Model UN, but it's more like real life. You're actually writing papers and giving your input that people use at the real UN conferences. If I got that right.
Uh, a bit, but I don't think it's like we don't write the papers. They send us like different things and they're like, oh, like please send revisions or, please um here's a meeting, like please join this youth consulting meeting and
Okay.
yeah, they take it in like that.
All right. And then lastly, you've mentioned that you were the finalist and our treasurer were at the Project Green Challenge. So can you tell us about what this challenge is, what you did to get as a finalist, and your role as a treasurer?
Yeah, so this is something me and two classmates did in October of my sophomore year. So last year. And basically what it was is that Project Green is a climate change initiative in which, high school students or college students for 30 days straight do different projects or like not projects, but like three different activities per day. And depending on the amount of activities we did, we get to accumulate points. I know it's a little confusing, so feel free to ask any follow-up questions. But in order to be a finalist, what we did was we just every day we did three different projects and then or we tried at least to do three different projects and we submitted them and we accumulated sufficient points to become a finalist.
All right. So yes, I do have a few clarifying questions. So what exactly are these projects and activities that you guys were doing?
Yeah, so every day there was a different prompt, right? So for example, one of the prompts would be like water conservation, and then they would have three different projects, right? So the first could be like, oh, like write a post about water conservation on it on a Instagram, right? And the second would be something like send an email to a teacher about, urging your school to preserve water, right? And like third would be something like um go out and like, you know, buy something, not buy something, but like create something that helps water conservation. And every day we would get something like that, and then we would do those projects, right? Like water conservation was one I remember, fires was another thing, sustainability was another thing, and it was just like that for 30 days.
Okay, so that's really exciting. And you also mentioned that you're the treasurer for this basically competition. So is this more of a regional thing, or is it nationwide or international kind of? And what's your role? Like, I know treasurer is obviously money and funding, but what do you exactly do?
Yeah, so um the thing is, when we first started, it was just three of us. But then after we became a finalist, we were required to do a project in the community that is to be implemented. So, what we are doing as our final project is a recycling or composting kind of activity at our school. However, the issue is that in order to have such thing, we do need to have some, materials. For example, we need to know details like where we're going to do the composting, how we're going to collect that composting, and I think that's one of the things I do is seeing how we can implement such some sort of composting system.
All right. That sounds all very exciting. So now just to get to know a little bit more about you and not just what you do. So basically, can you tell us what sparked your interest in STEM and what major or what do you want to do in the future, kind of?
Yeah, of course. So, I think in regards to what sparked my interest, I think it was just the curiosity of being able to do work, right? So, I think that things like uh, technology as well as the arts have a lot of different interconnected points. And I think I think that was very interesting to see, especially after doing work in which, it seems weird, cybersecurity is related to food insecurity.
Yeah.
But it is, right? And so I think that that's something that really sparks my interest, and it still does. In regards to what I want to do in the future, I haven't yet decided exactly what I want to do in the future. I do hopefully want to do something that is not office job. I don't want to be like an accountant or something. I want to do something that's more hands-on. Um, but yeah, I hope to, do something that is actually impactful. And I'm not sure what exactly that's going to look like in the future, but I hope that it becomes more clear as I age.
Yes. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about what classes you're currently taking in high school that align with your interests?
Yeah, so currently I'm taking uh okay, actually I think my schedule actually is very reflective of the kind of person I am, right? So um, as like everybody else, I have, or mainly everybody else, I have four core subjects: English, math, history, and science. And I think that's pretty encompassing of, first of all, the kind of person I am. I don't have specific interests, as you can kind of see through my kind of broad broad or organization and stuff. But I think that um the other two things that I'm taking, so I'm taking Chinese and speech and debate, and I think those are also pretty reflective of the person I am and the interest that I have. I think that public speaking is very important, and being able to talk with someone or being able to deliver speech, I think, is very important because communication is very important. And Chinese, yeah, Chinese to me also I think is pretty important. Kind of shown through Nisli why I think being able to bridge cultures and again communicating with others is a very important skill.
Yes, I definitely agree. And those sound like amazing classes that you're taking. And I am also part of speech and debate at our school. It's not, I do it outside as like a club activity. So that's like something that I really like doing too. And maybe that's why I'm doing the communications officer too, because that's kind of my thing as well. So if you had to give one tip to people aspiring to do anything, bring change, pursue their interests, what tip would you give them?
Go for it. Um, you know, you can't start if you can't do anything if you don't start, right? Um, I know it's really daunting at times to get something started. Like it's really, the thing is every time I have a legislator's phone number that I'm about to call, it always freaks me out. Like I've called, a lot of different people before, but it's always that moment like, oh my goodness, I have to click the call button.
Yes.
It's so daunting, right? And but ultimately you have to realize that this, there's nothing to lose if you call them, right? Like just call them, make that phone call, ask your friend if you're worried about, that. Just ask them. And, to some people who are still scared and that doesn't give you any comfort because, that's pretty cliche. the comfort is that if it doesn't go well, in some instances, you're never going to see that person again.
Yes.
For example, sometimes, we get not rejected, but like we don't get followed up or like we get ghosted. But hey, we're never going to meet those people and we have other opportunities always. So I think just go for it. Um, if you have any, kind of issue, remember that you're not the only one that probably had this issue at one point. Somebody else probably did. I think that brings a lot of comfort. Um, but yeah, I think that's my biggest tip.
All right. So before I wrap up our interview, is there anything that you'd like to share with us? Anything you'd like to say? And please feel free to tell us about anything.
Yeah, sure. Number one, I I was looking through the Steamboat's Instagram and website, and I think it's a really great organization. People who are watching this, please join. Um, I think Steamboat is a great organization. I think that's one thing. Secondly is there are numerous different organizations out there. You're always, if you don't feel like starting your own initiative, don't feel like you need to, there's always probably going to be, another one out there that, is always looking for members, as somebody who works in a few different nonprofits, I know, trying to find members and all that is always a need for all nonprofits. So if you don't feel comfortable starting your own, you can definitely join someone else's and have fun, do things that you're passionate about. If you don't feel like, I hope that it doesn't feel like a burden to join these kind of nonprofits. So have fun doing it. And I hope that you have a good time doing any kind of volunteer work that you guys are doing.
Thank you for this amazing advice. So, I want to just thank Yannie for joining us this week on our Student Series interview project. And if you're interested in getting interviewed by our team, be sure to check out the form in the description below. We're always looking for interested students, and we interview anyone between the ages of 14 and 22, but we'll always make exceptions for grad students who are doing amazing work. We hope to see you back here again on Monday for our next installment. Thank you.